Exactly. And I mean, I always did that by writing. I mean, every book I wrote is a very personal experience. And since
150 books translated and
translated,
4
yeah.
written. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
But the ones that I've written, they are really all autobiographical. And I think, I mean, the last one was published about 10 years ago. And when I look at it, sometimes I have it with me and then I leave it somewhere because I live 3 months here, 2 months there, 5 months there. And then in between I do 5,000 kilometers in a car alone through Australia. And then I do always expensive perfume, red lips, no sense of orientation, no navigation system. And I feel fucking absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, thankful, curious, and free of fear. And so I write stories, the stories that I experience by living like that.
What a
And so
vision.
nothing dramatic and nothing earth-shattering.
Hello, my name is Ian Antonio Paddison, your host of Life is Feeling, Counting the Ways, where we explore non-scripted some of the secrets, insights, and lived experiences of real people. Self-sponsored and independent, the show offers a multidimensional, multilingual listening experience and is my invitation to you to garner for yourself everything that could be interpreted as practical advice from the skills, experience, values, and attitudes from the compelling personalities featured here. I invite you to further explore the topical themes and, on your own, in your own sweet time, reflect on how all of these play out in our everyday lives. The show promises no answers to anything whatsoever, and you get to decide for yourself what works for you. You get to form your own truths. And if you do find something new that is of value to you and want to give something back, all I would ask you to do is to give it away and share the show or the episode with a friend. So what can you expect from this episode today? It cuts to the very core of why I do this whole show. Long-form content, my preferred approach, distinguishes itself from the platitudes and sound bites, mindfully articulating the contexts at hand and doing proper justice to my guests, the themes, and to you. You get to download, pause, stop, rewind, revisit, skip forward, listen again and again, as many times as you need, ad-free, the way it was meant to be. Our guest for today says, and I quote, "I love to be out in the world. Over the years, I have written 4 books about my own experiences. One of them twice, first in German and then in English. Begegnung mit dem Schamanen, or, in English, Encounter with the Shaman, followed by Sundance and Nur Mut. All of these books are personal accounts and are generally positive, all available on Amazon and links in the show notes. In today's episode, we go on to talk about, and I list first, the feel of silk, the sense of beauty and gratitude, defining the word feeling within the context of this show, love and fear as a life philosophy, owning your voice and curating your own story, the notion of influencer. We discuss Angelika's approach to writing. We look at female sexuality through the lens of fear, love, intuition, and consent. We look at alcohol as a crutch. We discuss what is called the big scary animal. You get to find out what that is. That comes about 49 minutes into the show. We also look at what we call soulless love and the contract. Voice, consent, and democracy. Rape by deception. Consent and the checkbox. Freedom of movement. Generosity without expectation or agenda. And last but by no means least, where the devil lives. So then, without further ado, published author, globetrotter, connoisseur of silk and fragrance and other fine things, our guest for today, Ms. Angelika Hansen.
Ja, Angelika, hier sind wir wieder in Berlin. Ich lerne dich kennen zum ersten Mal. Ich habe so viel Tolles von dir gehört und Endlich bist du hier, du sitzt jetzt vor mir. Ja, so ist das,
Okay.
Ja, Schriftstellerin, Übersetzerin, Weltreisende. Ja, und ich bin gespannt auf unser kleines Gespräch heute. Ja. Wie fühlst du dich heute?
Ja, I'm okay. Ich fände es schön, wenn es wieder ein bisschen wärmer wäre. Aber sonst ist es okay, ist fine.
Fantastic. Ja, also, Life is Feeling. Ich habe dir davon erzählt und das ist jetzt ein kleines Konzept von mir. Ich versuche einfach mal, Feeling als nicht nur als Emotion zu betrachten, aber auch als Verb oder wie man so sagt manchmal, in meinen Englischunterrichte, Tunwort. Ne? Das heißt, man geht so raus im Leben und probiert Sachen, fasst Sachen an, experimentiert so ein bisschen. Und ich finde es sehr gespannt, weil du bist ein Beispiel von dieses Lebensstil, dieses Angehensweise, die ich mir vorstelle, dass genau dieses Life is Feeling Vibe irgendwie embodies.
Tja, was soll ich sagen? Feeling. Klar, das Erste, was mir einfällt im Zusammenhang mit Feeling ist, ich folge meiner Intuition in meinem Leben. Angstfrei, in der Regel. Und wenn ich fühle oder die Intuition habe, ich würde gerne 4 Wochen nach Bangkok fahren und da drüber schreiben, dann versuche ich das zu realisieren. Also das, was ich tue, das ist basiert auf Gefühlen, aber auf Gefühlen in Form von Intuition. Also wirklich das Innerste. Ich glaube, wir alle werden im Grunde genommen von unseren Gefühlen bestimmt und nicht von Vernunft. Also ich denke, Gefühle und Intuition, für mich ist das ziemlich das Gleiche oder sehr eng verwandt. Das bestimmt unser Leben. Es bestimmt auf jeden Fall mein Leben im Großen und Ganzen. Im Gegensatz zu tun, was man tun muss oder soll oder was normal ist für die meisten Menschen. Das fühle ich nicht und dann mache ich das auch nicht. Ich fühle, dass ich tue das, was ich für richtig halte. Und was ich für richtig halte, ist eng mit meinen Gefühlen verbunden. Und und in der Welt unterwegs zu sein, was ich ja bin. Ich meine, ich mache das allein und ich liebe das alleine zu machen. Das ist kein Resultat irgendeiner enttäuschten Beziehung. Im Gegenteil, ich kenne sowas gar nicht, enttäuschte Beziehung. Vielleicht eine in meinem Leben, ist ewig lange her, hat man ja mal. Aber ich hatte wesentlich viele, die wunderbar waren, wo die Gefühle, wo wir drüber sprechen, gestimmt haben, bis sie irgendwann für mich nicht mehr so gestimmt haben. Dann bin ich halt weggegangen. Aber die Welt, die Gefühle für die Welt, unter die Neugier, was auch ein Gefühl ist. Für mich ist Neugier keine aus der Vernunft geborenes Notwendigkeit, wenn man so will. Das ist wirklich mein Gefühl. I'm curious, I want to see what goes on. I want to talk, to communicate. Und wenn es fremd ist, umso besser. Und wenn ich fremd in der Fremde bin, das ist auch ein starkes Gefühl, was ich mag, was ich schätze. Was nicht jedermanns Sache ist. Eigentlich eher umgekehrt, ne? Ohne Fremde, but I love it. So ja, also ich würde sagen, in gewisser Weise natürlich bin ich sehr von meinen Gefühlen bestimmt. Aber ich vertraue ihnen eben auch und folge ihnen.
Okay. Lass uns von Seide reden.
Seide.
Seide ist vielleicht eine gute Mischung, ein gutes Beispiel auch, für was wir meinen. Ich glaube, davon bekommt man bestimmte Emotionen und gleichzeitig es hat eine bestimmte Weiche, also wie es sich so bewegt, also wie es, sag mal so, die Körper so streichelt, würde ich sagen. Ne?
Es ist kostbar. Es ist ein kostbares Gefühl. Es ist leicht. Es belastet einen nicht. Es liegt nicht schwer auf dem Körper. Es ist einfach schön. Und bei mir hat es was mit meiner Mutter zu tun, die sehr früh gestorben ist. Und ich war ein Kind, als sie starb. Und die Erinnerung an meine Mutter, she was a very beautiful woman. She died when she was 34. And even though we didn't have much money, my father managed to give her silk and feathers. And I think I took that over. There's a certain elegance, a certain style, a certain luxury, if you will. Mm-hmm. And even though I am not somebody who is out for more money than I need to live the way I like, and I don't need that much. I always find silk, and if I have to go to a second-hand store, I buy it, and it just makes me feel beautiful.
Fantastic.
Usually I do feel pretty beautiful. Anyway, people, listen to this. I wish you the same. Aber Seide macht das natürlich noch, unterstreicht das. Oder Kaschmir, was mir genauso lieb ist. Also Seide und Kaschmir, das sind solche sehr schönen, angenehmen Dinge, die sich gut anfühlen. Deswegen, ja, das ist, ja.
You know, you touched on two things there a minute ago, and it's just fantastic. I love the way, the grace with which you just switch over into English. Yes. And yeah, you know, I mean, I warn people, you know, from the beginning, you know, introducing this series that, you know, it's for people who are multilingual. It's for people who speak English and German. And I make no apologies for that. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's like a dance between languages that doesn't say that we have necessarily weaknesses in one, but because we are capable of finding the most precise explanation of the things we want to say. Yeah. So the reason though why I mentioned silk is because it's a mix of the two. Yeah, it's a mix of the emotion, which is definitely something that is true because you spoke of your mother, your late mother, and also how it makes you feel. You spoke about also feeling beautiful, which is something that I think is, you know, deserves its own episode, I would say. I like it when people feel beautiful, because if they feel beautiful, then they feel as if they deserve the love and attention that I give to them. And, you know, then I have a much easier life. You know, we could leave it at that. But I think it's just great. Tell me more about your experience with silk and feeling.
I mean, when it comes to feeling beautiful, also das kann man wirklich besser in Englisch ausdrücken. Wenn man das in Deutsch ausdrückt, dann riskiert man, weil die deutsche Mentalität etwas herber ist als das Englische, die Sprache auch und auch die Mentalität, dann riskiert man, dass derjenige, der andere meint, mein Gott, sie ist eingebildet, weil who does she think she is? Aber I've always found myself beautiful in my own way, and I've always been grateful for that. And I always thought, and I wrote about that too, I wish women would just feel themselves beautiful, how much easier would their life would be.
My life would be easier too.
I figure beautiful, not in the sense of what society expects a woman to be, but beautiful for who she is, because it's an inner thing that kind of shows itself outside, and it has nothing to do with the idea of modern beauty. And so for some reason I have that, I had that, and still have it. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But I think I'm beautiful and I'm grateful. And that sense of beauty, which is an inner sense that represents itself or shows itself outside, I can go into the world with gratitude and adoration for other beauties. Like, you know, wenn du in meinem Alter bist, dann siehst du viele junge Frauen, die sehr schön sind. Und wenn ich dann unterwegs bin und ich sehe, wie also die Männer, die Zeit meines Lebens mir immer, nicht immer, aber doch sehr oft mir gezeigt haben, dass sie meine Schönheit schätzen, einfach auch so Fremde am Vorbeigehen. Wenn ich jetzt mit meiner Tochter, die jünger ist als ich und auch, she's a beauty in her own way, and I realized that she gets more attention and the men look more after, you know, at her because she's young and blah, blah, blah. There is a whole story behind it. But basically my reaction to that is, yes, let those young beauties have the stage. I've had it all my life and it was a blessing to me. So to feel beautiful is a wonderful thing. And I think people can do something to reach that state instead of criticizing themselves all the time. It makes life really that much more pleasant.
Yes. Well, you know, I mean, you spoke of the German language being a little more erb, you know, as English, as you said. I mean, there are also some cultural differences where sometimes I wonder, because it seems as if this Selbstkritik it's seen as a virtue, as if you should be constantly critiquing yourself and never being satisfied with yourself, and so many people suffer under that. And that is seen as more as of a virtue than being comfortable and satisfied with who you are. So they go through the day whipping themselves, telling themselves how stupid they are, for example. And then after a while, that begins to be an automatic response that can spiral into all sorts of things, self-hate, where lots of the worst things in life start with self-hate. In the world, a lot of bad things start with self-hate. So, I prefer this recognition of, not the perfection, but what I like to also call the perfect imperfection, the acceptance of self. And many good things start with that. You as well, with this confidence that you enter into the world or you go out into the world, people see that and recognize it. I recognize it. And they want it from you. So they're attracted to you and they want to keep you closer. When I see a woman who's just purely beautiful commercially, to me, that's mostly a source of stress.
Yeah, well, you're a man, you should know. I mean, I look at women differently, but I know what you mean.
It's stress,
And like looking around and seeing, all these pumped up lips and these artificial eyebrows who look so out of place. I was curious, and I wonder. Sometimes they're beautiful that way, but I still wonder: is it necessary? Did you have to do that? Why did you have to do that? Did you not feel beautiful enough? And I think, many people don't. Men too, by the way.
Of course.
And so I guess with me it's not like that. I have my moments, don't get me wrong. I have my moments. I think, oh my goodness, what is wrong with me? How do I look, for example? Because, the beauty needs to also be visible, the inner beauty. I mean, it needs to be visible. So in that way, it is important, but not important of you have to be beautiful outside to get ahead in life. That I don't think is really working. But if you feel grateful that you're beautiful or whatever, or beautiful, let's just forget about the word. That you're okay with yourself, that you're curious about the world. That to me is much more important. You're curious about the world. You are not afraid of the world. You can be on your own. Not because you're disappointed in humanity or in man or anything like that, but because you are free, you're a free spirit, you can move around as you please. And let's not talk about money. I mean, you have to be able to do, but that's the thing everybody has to do in life. You have to find your way of taking care of your needs. But so curiosity and the desire to see the world in which we are born, see as many aspects as possible, whatever that might have to do with feeling or not. For me, that is an important thing. And there's too little of that people are willing to do that, even if they have a lot of money. There is alone. No, I don't want to do this on my own, especially women. And but hey, everyone's different. But I think that they go all together. If I would not feel, so to speak, beautiful or confident, gratefully confident, I couldn't live like that. So there it meets itself again.
Exactly. So if I understand you correctly, which is, I always start this way, you're saying to me that it is this self-acceptance and the curiosity that comes or flows from that. This is also something that caused you to want to go out into the world to experiment and try things out. And that, if that is correct, that is the other side of the feeling, because it is a feeling emotional and the desire also to go out and touch things.
Well, I don't know what you mean. I mean, it's not a sexual thing.
No.
It is touch them.
Definitely not.
Touch
Definitely
them also.
not.
For example, whenever I speak to people, even during COVID, I touch them tenderly and gently and just a little bit. Because of the human touch, it's important in utter respect and utter respect, exactly. So in that way, touching. Well, if touching is touching, not like that, like touching physical things, but you touch the things I feel. If I'm out in the world or wherever I am, as a matter of fact, even when I'm here, I try to do that when I'm in Germany and Berlin. I touch them with my heart.
Of course.
That is where the feeling lies.
Okay. Well, hold on. The thing is this, right? Of course, I don't mean it in a sexual way. Many people, well, I don't close out the sexual element at all. However, I'm looking at it in two ways. The feeling, the purely emotional, and the feeling, as in, for example, you rest your hand on the table, you touch the mic, for example. You just touch the mic, right? No, just do it. You can do it. Touch it. Yeah? Yes. And squeeze it a little bit.
Of course you touch things.
Exactly. That is what I mean. Going out into the world and experiencing things, to do these things. What is the heat in India like?
Well, that's what you probably think, but this is not how I do it. If you ask me how I'm not out in the world to touching things.
No. To experience.
The experience, yeah, yeah, well, okay. I'm trying to give you an honest answer. I'm sure, we all touch things all the time. How can we not?
That's why I say
so wherever
life is
I am,
feeling.
in whatever country I touch, I touch people, I touch whatever is there, but I'm not out to touch anything. I don't even think of that. This is just natural to touch things. So for me, feeling and touching goes way deeper than just touching some objects or some foreign plant or some.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I think I know what you mean. But
So spreche ich nicht Deutsch.
I don't mean it literally either.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean it literally, not literally. But when I say feeling, I mean the emotional aspect and also the experiential aspect.
Yeah, that's important.
That is what I meant, or that is what I mean by life is feeling.
Now that boils down to love in the broadest sense of the word.
Exactly.
If I would not love, quote unquote, the world, humanity as a rule, I mean, I have my moments, I wouldn't want to be out there. I wouldn't do this. I would not travel since 22 years, live all over the world and write about it if I would not do it out of a feeling of joy. A feeling of joy of being, meeting the unknown. Instead of being afraid of it, I run towards it and feel myself to be a human being, one person, one part of life, and everything else is so much new to see and to feel every day, wherever you are. And that, to me, that's feeling, yeah. That the joy and the love that you feel, the confidence, the curiosity, all of that to me is feeling based.
Fantastic. So we are on the same page.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what I meant. So, it's good that we can, kind of pick this apart a little bit, because I am sure there are a lot of people out there who might see the title and think a certain thing, but it's more than what is there. It's not just the emotional, but the curiosity that takes you out into the world. And thus, the question you just answered, it is indeed part of the reason why, this love, as you rightly said, it is what causes you to feel this curiosity in the first place.
And the pleasure and the joy of discovering
the joy
world.
of discovering.
So many different things in the world,
Yes.
And this is the contrary of das Gegenteil. Jetzt muss ich erst mal Deutsch sprechen, weil mir ein englisches Wort fehlt. Das ist ein Ding. Also das Gegenteil von Liebe ist Angst. Und Angst ist sehr, sehr, sehr verbreitet. Viel zu sehr verbreitet. Nicht nur jetzt die letzten 2,5 Jahre, sondern generell als eine grundsätzliche Lebensphilosophie in unseren Breitengraden ganz besonders. Aber du findest es überall zu verschiedenen Degrees und ich habe sicher auch meine Ängste hier und da. Aber Angst als Philosophie dem Leben gegenüber, als deine Grundeinstellung dem Leben gegenüber, das ist bedauerlich. Also das finde ich schade und ich wünschte, die Menschen würden halt anstatt Angst Zuversicht und Neugier entwickeln.
Ja, Angelika, es ist so toll, dass du das jetzt sagst. Ne? Als ich nach Deutschland kam, in 2003 Anfang so, ich habe diese Philosophie, ich hatte das im Kopf und ich habe immer gesagt, es gibt nur 2 Emotionen, Angst und Liebe, ja, und ich habe das immer gesagt, jahrelang, ich habe geglaubt, es war einfach für mich zu sehen, also alle Emotionen könnte es entweder wie dunkel und Licht, ja, konnte ich immer sagen, okay, das ist Angst, ja, das ist Basis oder Liebe. Und viele haben gesagt, nein, es gibt viel mehr. Ja, klar gibt es ja ganz viele Sachen dazwischen. Aber ich glaube, dass auch fast alles, was wir machen, ja, es ist entweder von, sag mal so, in Englisch, a place of love or a place of fear. Ja, und ich höre das von jemand anders jetzt zum ersten Mal in 20 Jahren.
Darf ich dazu was sagen? Also in Deutschland speziell, ich bin Deutsch, ich weiß das also, auch wenn ich hier meistens nicht lebe. Wenn man in Deutschland sagt Liebe, das hat eine unglaubliche, ernsthafte Tragweite. Wenn ich sage Liebe und Angst, meine ich, Liebe ist vieles. Liebe ist Wohlwollen,
Ja,
Liebe ist Geduld,
genau.
Liebe ist Zärtlichkeit von Mensch zu Mensch, von
Und Liebe
Tier
ist nicht
zu
nur
Mensch.
Sex,
Es
natürlich.
ist nicht nur Sex und nicht nur die Sache zwischen Mann und Frau.
Nicht nur
Lassen wir das
romantisch.
Gendern mal beiseite, das ist für mich kein Thema. Es ist nicht nur romantischer Natur, sondern es ist eben so vieles. Es ist eine Mischung aus Dankbarkeit, aus Freude. Also Freude
Wohlwollend,
und
hast du
Begeisterung
gesagt.
ist
Ja.
definitiv ein Aspekt davon.
Ja, klar, natürlich.
Und das finde ich ganz wichtig.
Ja, natürlich. Natürlich, das ist genau richtig. Spot on, sagt man. Ne? Aber ich finde es wirklich, ich weiß nicht, ja, es ist nicht überraschend, aber ist einfach schön, dass du das jetzt sagst. Ne? So Angst und Liebe. Und ja, wie gesagt, ja, ich höre das jetzt nur zum zweiten Mal. Ne? Also von 2003 bis jetzt hat keiner das so bestätigt. Ja.
Wo warst du?
Ja, das ist ja, Besuche. Ne?
Yes,
Also ich bin auch
I know,
curious, ja.
Ich verstehe.
Natürlich. Oh Mann, also das ist so schön.
Und die letzten 2 Jahre haben natürlich diese Angst bei vielen, vielen Menschen noch intensiviert. Und wenn ich heute höre oder lese vorgestern, dass schon die Presse schon wieder langsam die Infiltration in den Mind of the People anfängt. Es gibt schon wieder 240 Todesfälle mit Corona. Also da habe ich ein anderes Gefühl, nämlich Zorn greift mich da. Keine Angst, sondern Zorn. Angst höchstens insofern, als dass ich aus irgendwelchen Gründen nochmal daran gehindert werden könnte, mich frei zu bewegen. Das würde mir nicht passen. Selbst das macht mich ärgerlich mehr als dass einfach, dass so mit der Angst immer schon Menschen manipuliert werden und dass sich das nicht geändert hat, im Gegenteil. Und da natürlich deine Angstfreiheit zu bewahren.
Genau, das ist dann die Angst.
Das ist
Genau.
irgendwie eine Aufgabe, finde ich. Also mir fällt das nicht allzu schwer, vielen Leuten fällt das viel schwerer. Und das wäre schön. Ich wäre einfach so froh, wenn das mal aufhören würde, dass Leute sich vor allem fürchten müssen. Ein wunderbares Manipulation. Also muss man politisch werden, das kann ich nicht anders sagen. Das ist eine Manipulation der Leute, dass man Angst benutzt, um sie in bestimmte Richtungen zu drängen.
Ja, aber es ist ganz klar, ne, in einem Krisenzustand, die Leute machen einfach, was gesagt wird.
Das ist eben auch feeling-basiert.
Ja, auch. Also dann sind die viel mehr üblichkeitshörig, wenn eine Krisensituation irgendwie fabriziert ist. Das ist.
Da verlassen sich viele
das
Menschen nicht mehr auf ihr eigenes Gefühl, auf ihre Intuition, was ich am Anfang erwähnt habe. Für mich ist das oft identisch. Da verlassen sie sich nicht mehr drauf. Da überwiegt der andere Aspekt. Und das finde ich bedauerlich und durchaus auch gefährlich in the long run. Also
ja, selbstverständlich.
Und das ist, ja, jedenfalls habe ich das nicht so und da bin ich schon froh drum. Und ich versuche das auch zu verbreiten, indem ich einfach Geschichten erzähle. Ich schreibe Bücher, wie du weißt, und ich erzähle meine Geschichten und ich bin da wirklich erbarmungslos, wo immer ich auf der Welt bin. Wenn ich das Gefühl habe, wenn ich irgendeine Intuition, irgendein Gefühl, weil mich irgendetwas wie ein Stichwort oder wie ein Bild an etwas erinnert, eine schöne Geschichte, dann erzähle ich den Leuten die. Und wer immer das ist, männlich, weiblich, solange sie eine Sprache verstehen, die auch ich verstehe, ich spreche 3,5 Sprachen, immerhin etwas, und dann tut ihnen das gut, den Leuten. Das tut ihnen einfach gut, wenn jemand mal daherkommt und ehrlich aus seinem Leben heraus etwas erzählt, was sie begeistert. Einfach nur so. Also ich will nichts dafür haben, nichts, das ist einfach mein Leben. Und das ist für mich ein schönes Gefühl und für die auch. Und da sind wir wieder beim Feeling. Und davon gibt es ein bisschen wenig heutzutage. Du hörst eher die anderen Geschichten, die alle, oh Gott, wie entsetzlich alles ist. Also das möchte ich mal hier erwähnen, das muss ich wahrscheinlich gar nicht. Ich bin definitiv seit all diesen vielen, vielen Jahren nicht als Opfer unterwegs. Never mind what happens. If I have a bad experience, like in Amerika mit meinem Sohn, der ist mittlerweile natürlich längst erwachsen, aber da war ja noch ein Kind und ich war illegal in Amerika. Kein moralisches Vergehen, as far as I'm concerned. I loved being there. Nichtsdestotrotz wurden wir irgendwann erwischt und verhaftet und wir kamen in ein Abschiebelager für 6 Tage. Ich bin dann glorios freigesetzt worden.
Wow, wie spannend.
Und ich habe viele glückliche Erfahrungen in der Beziehung gehabt, also wirklich so magical. Das ist natürlich, während das passierte, es war interessant, aber nicht angenehm. Aber nicht ganz, looking back, it's a great story. Also, und hatte sogar eine gewisse humorige, wie sagt man, Aspekte.
Element. Mhm.
Und das meine ich, dass man, was immer einem widerfährt, dass man das mit einem relativen Gleichmut oder jedenfalls nicht mit, oh Gott, wie furchtbar, was mir alles passiert ist im Leben, sondern einfach dann, wow, dass dann die Freiheit und das Gefühl der Angstfreiheit und der Freude am Leben nicht davon weggeht. Und das ist etwas, ich weiß nicht, also ich habe das nicht trainiert, das war halt bei mir einfach so, ich habe leicht reden. Anyway, aber das, I don't know.
Du, ich finde es toll, ja. Ich mag es, wenn Leute einfach mal mitteilen und auch genau diese schöne Geschichte erzählen. Weil, also, ja, was hast du davon gelernt? Also jetzt kann ich vielleicht ein bisschen was davon lernen. Für mich vielleicht nicht die gleichen Fehler machen oder was immer, sagt man so immer, ne? Aber ich finde es einfach toll und genau dieses, sag mal so, ich weiß nicht, was das ist, Zuversicht oder in English, I can take comfort in the thought that manchmal, wenn schlimme Sachen passieren, dann kann man nach einer Weile einfach mal zurückblicken und dann ist es nicht mehr so schlimm. Ne? So, ich weiß diese Geschichten zu schätzen. Ja, deswegen mag ich auch einen Podcast, weil ich finde es auch wichtig also warum, dass ich das auch mache, auf Englisch gesagt, I'm taking ownership of my own voice. You know, I want to choose my own stories.
Sure.
A story is being written of me anyway, from everything, from my telephone is writing a story of me. The websites I visit, my bank card, all the people collecting my data, they're writing a story. And, if I meet a nice lady one night, tonight I'm probably going out, I will probably meet someone, and if, she'll just say, excuse me, she goes to the bathroom and she asks Google who I am, and I want to make sure, as I said, Google is writing a story anyway, so what she finds should be what I put there. So I want to be the curator of my own story, and part of that is also deciding what stories I want to borrow from, what stories I want to give a stage, and yours is one of them. So it's a wonderful thing.
I mean, I think borrows, maybe I misunderstood you, but you mean you let yourself be inspired, that's what you mean?
Yes, of course. Well, I borrow them in that I take the inspirational aspects of what it is you have to share, and I share it with my people.
Yeah,
I don't take it for myself. It's still yours.
Exactly. And I always did that by writing. I mean, every book I wrote is a very personal experience.
150 books translated and 4 written. Oh my goodness.
But the ones that I've written, they are really all autobiographical. And I think, the last one was published about 10 years ago. And when I look at it, sometimes I have it with me and then I leave it somewhere because I live 3 months here, 2 months there, 5 months there. And then in between I do 5,000 kilometers in a car alone through Australia. And then I do always expensive perfume, red lips, no sense of orientation, no navigation system. And I feel fucking absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, thankful, curious, and free of fear. And so I write stories, the stories that I experience by living like that. So nothing dramatic and nothing earth-shattering, but I love it. And so to have your own voice and to talk, to tell your story, it is so needed. In my eyes, it's so needed. The first-person account, and it doesn't have to be a movie star or a politician. No, it just has to be somebody, if possible, but it's not the only way. Do it with joy and with a sense of humor and trust. If you can't, and if it has been hard and difficult, and you feel you have to tell the story, you do it. But those stories are there. Lots of those stories you find. You don't find that many stories that have been continuously, not always glorious, but continuously accepted by me. And walked through, and in the end, it was all a great story. That's what life is. And so when I sometimes look at my own book, even the one that has been published such a long time ago, a new one is in the making, I smile. And I realize this is my voice, and I'm grateful for that. It humbles me and it makes me happy at the same time. And having your own voice, I think many people, many men, many women, maybe haven't found it yet or never really found it because they're so influenced by society, what has to be and what has not to be. By that way, talking about influence, influencer for me, an influencer, male or female, is a really difficult and not altogether pleasant thing. They have obviously their place in this society, but the fact that they influence, they are not called inspirators, they are influencers. As far as I'm concerned, I do not want to be influenced by somebody, especially when all they do is selling shit.
German is in many ways, German is a much more precise language. You call it ein bisschen mehr Erbe, but there's a directness about it that I like. Because when I say Beeinflusser, das hört sich, mehr wie das so ist. Yeah, it feels a little closer to manipulative. Yeah, so you are definitely right where that is concerned. Inspiration is better. It's the leadership like aspect of getting people to move, inspiring. You get them to want to do that, but to influence is almost manipulative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't like it either.
It's amazing how powerful they are and how much the young people who haven't found their own voice yet, how they follow that, and in the process spend money they don't have for stuff they don't need.
It's crazy.
I mean, you cannot live free, quote unquote, as I kind of do, without at some point getting political and looking and checking what is going on and saying something about that instead of just saying, you can't change anything. Well, yeah, because we can change something by communicating with others and communicating in a way that is inspiring. So, influencers, it is just another devilish child of supercapitalism.
Yes, of course, a devilish child. I sense that we could go down that rabbit hole for another 2-3 hours, perhaps. But
yeah, we don't have to.
I
Let's
want
go
to.
Back to something.
I wanna. Yeah, I wanna ask you about the books you've written. You've written 4 books. You've translated 150, and I know over 150, and I know that's also a Meisterwerk. I've been looking at some translated poetry recently, and I still marvel at how that is done. However, my question to you now is, what is your approach when you're writing a book? You speak of your trips through America, free, powerful, beautiful, red lipstick, as you said, Cadillac, do you try to be... you take the approach of trying to share a kind of a wisdom, or is your approach to be as descriptive as possible? What is your approach?
With my books.
With your books, yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm just so grateful that I could do all those things and hopefully continue doing them as long as I live or as long as I like to. And it wasn't even my idea to write. I was asked to write about a particular experience I had in 1987, which is timeless in itself, because it could happen any day. Not with this was something that happened on a Native American reservation.
Don't touch the mic.
Huh?
Do not touch the mic.
I'm sorry. I'm not used to mics, I can tell. All right. And let's not talk about the form of the mic, whatever.
Well,
So, anyway. So, yeah, I was asked to write that story. It never was my idea. I used to make movies. I had my own theater group. So, writing, for some reason, was not in the cards for me. Though, looking back, it was. Because when I was bad at school, not that I was not intelligent enough, but I didn't get it. What is this, all this, what's that talking about? But I love to write stories. They came from my fantasy. That were, a result of my fantasy and my whatever. But that has changed. It's more as I grew into myself, fantasy, I find reality way more exciting than fantasy. And so when I was asked to write about that particular story that had happened 10 years before, and I never made a note, but it had touched me so deeply, and it was totally unexpected when it happened, I sat down and I started to write. And I realized I like doing that. And so from one book came the next, and since, I have to get back to the same thing. When I look back on my life, I'm not that young anymore, so they're quite a few years. And when I look back, I had so many great stories, and many of those were happening as a result of an inspiration, as a result of an intuition, as a result of something which is not in the realm of logic. But the situations happened in this very real. I'm not following no guru, no religion, no nothing, no philosophy, nothing. And so I write the stories because I like writing the stories, because I think people will love reading them. And for me, it's more important that I find this is my voice. So when I look at my book that came out 10 years ago, a German book, by the way, I wrote English too. I see my voice, and if never anybody would have read it, it would be fine. Because I wrote it because it's true and it was good. This is why I write.
I sense then that you want to be as descriptive as possible instead of trying to impart wisdom on anyone, to give advice. It's just
rarely.
It's more a descriptive kind of sharing in as vivid a way as possible.
There are yes, it's true. I mean, I just write, and I obviously have a little bit of a talent to do that, but there are certain things. Like when I wrote my last book, which is called Nur Mut, I realized after I knew from the beginning that a certain aspect had to be included, which had nothing to do with my travels. And that was the situation of sexuality, as a matter of fact, of this, what happens between men and women. And if I would not, and I've always been from, maybe not in the first few years of my life as a woman, like in my early 20s, but pretty fast, I came to understand and I realized full-heartedly that women should never do anything, nothing, if they, in that moment, would not want to do it with that man. If he wants it, excuse me, it is of no relevance. She has to want it. The woman is the one who has to open herself to the man. And if she doesn't do that because she doesn't know, she's afraid, she is not experienced enough, she gives in because she's afraid to lose him, it doesn't bring no good. And so in my last book, which is all, I write about how I lived in Uruguay, in India, and got all over the world.
What is the name of the book? Will you please tell our listeners what's the name of the book?
It's hard to find. It just not, you can't, I tell you. It's called Nur Mut. It's a German book. It's about 250 pages. And since it was 11 years ago, sometimes you can still find it on Amazon. But today I heard that they are putting it out again as ebook in the next few weeks. So it's and it's just great stories and great stories. It's just little things that happen to me. It's nothing earth-shattering, but it's a real thing.
Yeah,
and I love to write another person's real stories, like people used to do before there was all this entertainment. They were sitting around in the evening. Mm-hmm. And they were telling the stories of what happened to them that day.
Yes.
And as far as I observe in our world here, Germany and Europe and most of the world that I have known, it's not happening anymore. People think they have nothing to tell. Du musst es aus ihnen herauskitzeln, wenn du genug Interesse hast. Mhm. Von alleine erzählen sie das nicht. Und ich mache das. Ich erzähle es gerne und ich liebe es. Ich erzähle es fast lieber, als dass ich es schreibe. Aber ich schreibe es auch gerne. Und, oh, yes, please, you may say something. Sorry. Once I start.
No. Well, I don't know. You seem to have sensed something there, because two things actually. You sensed that I wanted to say something, and you also touched on a topic that I wanted to touch on with you. So before we run too far away from that, first I want to say that you've said twice that you're not the youngest anymore. But I just want to say, listen, your age that has put you here today in front of me, sharing your voice, which you know that I think is something beautiful. You know, this podcast is global. Yes, I have listeners all over the world. Actually, not too many. There are a few people who like my show, but it's global, and you're sharing of your soul. And if it were, as let's say, were it not for the age and wisdom and experience and the stories that you have, you would bore me, and you would not be here. So let's just be thankful for that in the first instance. And the second thing that I wanted to say is you touched on the idea of consent.
You are now listening to Life is Feeling Counting the Ways. Our esteemed guest for today, Ms. Angelika Hansen. Today's episode is self-sponsored and brought to you by yours truly in association with English Coach Podcast, Living the Language, and iAntonio.media. Backing music provided in parts by Botany Bay under Creative Commons license and at the recommendation of my friend and dear colleague, Laura D., who herself featured in episode 4 of the show. The cover art for this episode was provided by Paulina, who came through splendidly with her contribution to the show on this day, the 26th of November, 2022. I have the greatest respect for artists, or let's say artistic contributions and exchanges that help to support the show. She says that I can tell you the following. I am an illustrator from the Ukraine who creates whimsical artworks, and that is followed by a little smiley. I'm currently living in Lviv, the western part of Ukraine, and I had to move here with my family from Kharkiv due to the Russian invasion. She goes on to say that we are still brave and creative, even without electricity. Now, I happened upon Paulina's artwork while browsing Instagram one day and was moved by it. I contacted her, and here we are today. What this artistic illustration means to me, considering its purely accidental origin and especially at this time, is its inherent defiant quality that appears to fly in the face of oppression and tacitly speak truth to power. That's what I feel. It is in itself, and within the context of today's show, a representation of the importance of independent media, taking ownership of your own voice and articulating it equally amidst the noise of all the others who would seek to influence and move you to their agenda. The bold, unapologetic attitude of this piece speaks to my intention for the show. In the same way, I would implore you to give yourself permission to sometimes consider other sources of insight and inspiration other than the ones that are fed to you by popular paid media. Independent podcasting is all about authenticity, inclusion, balanced conversations with ideas, and individual choice. And in so being is a pillar of any democratic ideal. So then I hope you get an idea of why this imagery, approach, and attitude kind of got to me and why I really tried to get it into the show. I want you to take note of the illustration, as it will quite likely feature again and again in future episodes of this flavor. Feel free to tell me what you think, and be sure to check out Paulina's work for yourself. Links in the show notes. The show is freely available everywhere. Show notes exclusives, images, videos, and associated links can be found at www.lifeisfeeling.com. And if you feel like even more actively engaging with the show, give meaning to the things you think about it by using the feedback forms. And feel free to join the private listeners group for an even more human listening experience. You can also check out the link to the show archives for a multitude of diverse and equally compelling themes that might be of interest to you. Thanks for listening, and without further ado, on with the show.
the woman, I wanted to touch, on that topic with you because for the past few weeks, I've been thinking about the idea, the notion of consent, and I've actually been, I think in Spain recently, they've written it into law that, consent has to happen and has to be provable in case there's a problem. And, for me, consent is not some kind of big event. Yes. As a man, for me, it's a natural thing. Of course, I don't want anything if the woman is not into it. And if I get this smallest inkling that she's not, then it's a big turn off for me personally. But then again, I can just talk about myself. However, some people seem to have issues with that. And I wonder sometimes because even with a photo shoot, for example, I always get let's say a model release signed before I start shooting. And that one paper with lots of legal speak on it and so on, it's a kind of a kill vibe, before the photo shoot, but I have to do it. Yes, and say, well, these are the things that you will get, and this is me. I am the Urheber and so weiter and so forth, and they have to sign as licensee, and I have to sign as licensor for the IP, the use of the IP, and so on, and it's a kill vibe. So all this talk about consent, which is something that I think I understand. And I think it also has to do with, again, as you said, the fact that the woman has to know what she wants, and it starts with her, for the most part, or whoever is playing that role. We have to talk that way these days, as the woman role, identifying as the woman role, I think, yeah. However, I don't think it's possible to put together a consent form. I mean, when I think about it, if we're now bringing that into courts of law, and that has to be proved from time to time if consent existed before the act. I can imagine that there has to be some kind of consent form somewhere, like, little cards that you carry around, like these sticky papers. And there's a little checkbox, you may touch me, you may kiss me on the shoulder only. You may squeeze me here, you may stroke me there, but only twice. And I just can't imagine what that would look like. So what do you think?
I can't imagine that it will go into such detail.
But it might.
Looking around and listening and watching, the media worldwide, this seems to be a problem that women don't feel self-confident enough or they don't know what they want. They still are trapped in the old-fashioned way of you have to wait until the man wants you and you have to get ready for that. Even though the women are much freer than that. From my experience worldwide in the last 20 years, since I'm out in the world on my own and loving it, actually, I would have to think very hard if I would ever take anybody with me. But I love meeting people and I love men. I mean, no problem with that. But my experience talking with women is that when they hear me say that women should not do anything that they don't want to do in that moment to that man, whoever that man is, and that also drinking alcoholic beverages to overcome the non-desire or the shyness, not a good idea. Leave it. I mean, I personally did all kinds of things as a hippie, but alcohol is not a good drug for anybody because it's not an enlightening drug. It's something that does the contrary. And if you need that to get close to somebody or go to bed with somebody, you would be very well advised to not do it, to not drink the wine in the first place. And if that means just because you're shy, you can't have some kind of intimate contact with somebody, I think it is better to be shy and to overcome it in some other way instead of drinking alcoholic beverages and just beer, whatever it might be. I find we are living, by the way, in my eyes, in a society of alcoholics, which are not identified as alcoholics. If you would take the beer and the wine and everything away from them, I think that would be a really problem. It could be a real problem. But there are reasons why alcohol is allowed, and those reasons are not in any way positive as far as I'm concerned. But let's get back to the man-woman thing.
The consent.
So I think women don't ask. I don't quite know how to do it. You have experiences, I think, with a woman, with men, and she will realize either right away or maybe take a while what she does not want. And if she realizes what she does not want when it comes to men and women, to sexual intercourse or playing around, whatever you want to call it, if she realizes that, she's well advised to not do it. And if that means the man will leave or whatever, the other partner will leave, well, yeah, good riddance. You may leave, thank you. I might not see it right, but, I think I'm not too far off. Men's sexuality is very different from women's sexuality. Let's say a man who's not already, let's say, refined in heart and spirit. If he's just normally, what I observe, if he's just a man, he's full of vigor and testosterone when it comes to situations with women, and it's easy, generally, to satisfy that. Women's feelings and sexuality is different. But somehow it is, I don't know, it seems to... Ich fange an zu stottern, wenn es um dieses Thema geht, weil ich weiß, wie ich das handhabe und ich weiß, das ist der einzige Weg, wie es geht. Natürlich bin ich nicht diejenige, die sagt, so muss das sein, um Gottes Willen, man trifft sich. Aber I am sure as hell the one who says yes and opens, who says no. And that has nothing to do with whoever he is, high, low, whatever. It's a feeling. And I think that also, sexuality is only really enjoyable also for the man if it happens when the woman is ready to be together with him.
Naturally.
And so often what I see, it's not happening that way.
Well, you're definitely right. I mean, I was trying to say earlier, I think the male sexuality is pretty simple, straightforward, as far as I know. I mean, maybe I'm saying that because, I know my own. So, to me, it's simple. But the female sexuality, to me, is really a big, scary animal. Not only scary to men, but also to very many women. They don't want to even accept their own, who would never admit that they like this or they like that. And there is this giving up of the responsibility of even their own pleasure to the men, and I see that in itself also as part of the problem, because then the men have to carry the responsibility for everything. And even the alcohol thing, it's not just about it's not just about having to drug yourself up to do something you don't want. It's also giving yourself an excuse to take what you really do want sometimes. So it's also about us being true to ourselves. I think men need to be a little more open and empathetic to the woman, and also be accepting of the big scary animal that is female sexuality. It really is scary to me. So it has such depth, and I don't know if you're definitely right. It's not simple. There are lots of things that come into play, and I think to first define consent, we have to also accept the fact that this is not just a little victim waiting, a little flower waiting to be plucked by a man with his simpleness, but a complexity that needs to be navigated, and I think that's one thing we need to do, and that complexity, I don't think it can be reduced to some kind of checkbox consent form. That's the difficulty.
I mean, who is introducing a consent form like that?
Well, if it's in law, if it's to be written into the law,
it is.
Then yes, I think
it will be.
I think in Spain they have. I don't know how, and I don't know how exactly this consent form looks, or how it's proved, or how it's enforced. Or I have no idea. I find it very fascinating. But we always say no means no, yes means yes. Sometimes I have to be very careful with that. But sometimes even a yes is not a yes. And what happens when if I ask a woman, may I kiss you now? Yeah, she laughs at me, and the whole vibe is gone, totally dead.
That would only be a good question if there is an erotic understanding between them. But if it's a question to see if consent is there, it's ridiculous. It has no feeling anymore attached to it.
Back to feeling.
And I think it comes down in the end to fear or love in the broadest sense. In my eyes, I do not need to be 10 years with somebody to learn love. Bullshit. It's a matter of that. But you have to kind of trust yourself. You feel when it's there. However it identifies itself, you feel it. Even it might not, you might then find out it doesn't last a lifetime or so. Yeah, well, then it doesn't last a lifetime. But so well advised, I think, everybody would be, even though that's not the way it seems to happen, if men and women would enjoy each other's physical presence, to put it elegantly, if they come from some space of love, desire, sweetness, passion. No alcohol, no freaking Tinder. I cannot imagine that does any good to anybody.
That's another topic.
It's another one.
Wegwerfgesellschaft, ne?
You know, it's Wegwerfgesellschaft and this soulless sex. I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm from the hippie generation, and of course there was a lot of love and experiments, and there were also moments of trying things out. You know, if it works, can we have just a relationship just for the pure physical pleasure of it? And one particular man who I loved to go to bed with, and we tried that. We did it 2-3 times in all kindness and sweetness, and we realized we had made a contract, so to speak, between us that the soul does not get involved. And that was the end of it. And we're smiling with gentleness and smiling. We said, have a good life. Bye-bye. And I think that happens. This soulless connection happens too much.
Yes, I know. But, you know, I mean, I still think it's the depth. You know, I put a lot of weight on the female sexuality because, you know, I'm fascinated by that, you know. But I think it's an acceptance of that first, accepting also, for example, that sex is different from love. Desire is something that we're allowed to feel. It's okay to like what you like. You don't have to feel ashamed of it. You don't need an excuse like too much Coke or too much Coca-Cola or too much alcohol. You don't need to give your partner all the responsibility for anything that he or she does to you because maybe you wanted it to, kind of thing. So it comes again from a place of self-love and self-acceptance, I think, and that's where it all starts. That's where we start being honest with ourselves.
When listening to you, my dear friend, even though we don't know each other that long, now what I say now might sound revolutionary or might sound like it is almost impossible to really live. I think the best idea is, and then the question of consent will not even play a part, if we trust our feelings and only in that way get involved with another person of whatever gender they might be, if we really sincerely trust our feeling of something like love and goodwill and passion without any drugs involved or whatever. If we learn, looking around, I feel that many women and men who do not have that connection with themselves.
Yes.
With their deep feeling.
That's where it all starts.
And so, if you get involved, they should get involved. Maybe they learn by doing it another way. But in the end, if we are not spring chickens anymore, but have lived for some time, let us get involved in a moment when pure passion, which is close to love, or is one expression of love, really, really, really makes us swoon, so to speak. You know, we all know this feeling where you kind of melt into somebody else, and it has to be mutual. And if it is not there, I mean, I personally, I always thought, ich möchte nicht verführt werden, weil verführt, wo einer etwas möchte, was der andere nicht möchte,
like
das kann nicht gut gehen. Das ist in die Irre führen.
Genau.
Ich möchte auch niemand anderen verführen. Ich möchte weder verführen. Das ist nur schön, wenn das so eine spielerisch zwischen zwei Menschen, die sich auf Augenhöhe begegnen und genau wissen, wie sie miteinander stehen oder ne, dann können sie das machen. Aber so im Allgemeinen, vielleicht ist es nötig, dass man einfach so diese ganzen Experimente macht und Consent und kein Consent und trotzdem, obwohl kein Consent, wir machen das trotzdem. Im besten Falle führt das denn meiner Meinung nach zu dem Punkt, wo die Frage von Consent nicht mehr auftaucht, wo beide wissen, this is good and we would love to be together in whatever way.
Yeah, that reminds me of an episode I did called Meeting in the Body, which is meeting in the body was also a topic which people thought it meant just rushing together and having sex without speaking, which can be an aspect of it.
Sure.
But the person who came on, she spoke about Kampfsport. She's a tango dancer, and she also does a Russian Kampfsport. It's called Sistema, and with her husband somewhere here in Brandenburg. And it was about getting to know your partner or your opponent without words. And that is very similar.
Yeah.
You know, tango is very similar to Kampfsport, and there's lots of things about Kampfsport or martial arts that also are very similar, as well as dance to, you know, the act of sex, for example. You know, coming together, meeting in the body without words. And I just think it was a very interesting concept. But you see, we haven't solved the problem of consent yet. Of course, you know, we can agree that consent is definitely I would say it is even the basis of a democracy. You know, voice, we spoke about voice earlier, me taking ownership of my voice, doing this podcast, not waiting on anyone to give me a stage, and that more people should do this. I've invited you to do the same, borrowing from your experiences and so on. Everybody should have a say and a kind of autonomy of their voice and their decision, also as it relates to consent for sexual activities.
Ich meine,
So we can agree with that.
Ich verstehe nicht, warum das so ein Thema ist. Das ist sicher für Männer mehr ein Thema als für Frauen.
Nee, eigentlich nicht. It's the women who are talking about it.
Ich habe nie in meinem, was soll Consent? Du weißt doch, wenn mir jemand gegenübersteht und dieses Thema Sexualität oder verschmelzen, call me romantic, it's fine with me, weil darum geht es ja letzten Endes, oder ich meine nicht um irgendwelche Hormonaustauscherei. Und wenn das da ist, dann macht man, was man miteinander machen möchte und es ist wunderbar. Und wenn das nicht da ist und wenn es 5 Jahre lang nicht da ist, dann lässt man eben die Finger davon.
Ja, aber wir können auch es gibt auch Gesellschaften, wo Frauen nicht diese Freiheit genießen. Da müssen wir zugeben. Ne? Manchmal gibt es auch Leute, die mitmachen müssen, weil die Machtdynamik ist nicht gleich. Und die müssen einfach machen, weil die keine Wahl haben. Yeah, and if they knew, for example, all the information there, so for example, so this recently I heard of rape by deception. You know, whether you're gonna withhold information, you can lie about something, which is fraud, or you can withhold information, and on that basis end up in someone's bed. You know, and that is a thing. Yeah, rape by deception. I heard it recently. Yeah, and as I said, you know, it can be as a lie. Plain and simple, or just withholding information. Maybe if I knew that this person was of a certain religion, I wouldn't go to bed with them, but they hid it from me. And then, you know, I can then, also in Großbritannien, denke ich, kann man verklagen.
Ich kann mir nicht vorstellen, dass mir das jemals passieren könnte, weil ich habe doch eine Intuition. Ich fühle doch, was bei dem anderen los ist. Ich habe doch wenn jemand da Deception Spielen machen würde oder was weiß ich, das würde ich doch merken. Und das ist ein wichtiger Punkt, dass Menschen kein Vertrauen in ihre Intuition haben, in ihre Gefühle. Intuition und Gefühl ist Gefühle sind auch noch was anderes, aber Intuition ist auch ein Gefühl. Wenn mir jemand gegenübersteht, der einen Hang zur Brutalität hat vielleicht oder der irgendwas anderes verschweigt und das spüre ich doch und da kommt der überhaupt nicht an mich ran oder wir klären das vorher. Und ich meine, das ist doch wohl, was muss man da lernen? Und wenn du jemanden vor dir hast, diese Deception, ich weiß nicht, inwiefern du dir vielleicht denkst, ach, wie kompliziert kann das werden, wie entsetzlich, vielleicht ist gar keine Deception, sondern du möchtest was oder der Mann möchte was oder die Frau möchte was, aber der andere möchte es nicht und man möchte es nicht wahrhaben und dann meint man, der macht...
Ja, also, guck mal, es gibt auch ganz viele Akademiker jetzt dran, ne? Die reden ganz viel darüber und natürlich, da will ich nicht sagen, dass die nur Quatsch reden und vielleicht gibt es auch nur Leute, die gar keine Liebe erlebt haben oder nicht genug so viel reden, ne? Aber ja, das wäre dann ein bisschen fies zu sagen. Aber manchmal stimmt das ja auch, ne? Also die keine Erfahrung haben, die ja keine Ahnung haben, die haben das große wissenschaftliche Sachen irgendwie zu sagen, weil die einfach keine Ahnung haben. Oder die wollen auch, dass andere Leute das so schwer finden, dass sie auch nichts bekommen. Ja, das ist fies, aber ich glaube, es gibt solche Leute. Ja, und deswegen, I don't know, ich muss darüber jetzt reden, wer weiß. Ne?
Ja, ich merke, das ist für dich ein Problem, ein Thema. Das merke ich schon.
Ist
Für
ja
mich
kein
ist das
Problem.
überhaupt kein Sinn.
Ich,
Da erzähl mir das. Ich klingt
ja
so,
gut,
du hast damit zu kämpfen.
bestimmte
so ein bisschen.
Elemente davon will ich so ein bisschen satirisieren eigentlich, um ehrlich zu sein. Ja, weil, also ich hatte noch nie ein Problem mit sowas. Ja, und für mich ist ja kein Event, es ist einfach selbstverständlich.
Pass mal auf, ich sag dir noch was dazu. Du bist ein Mann. Wenn eine Frau nicht will,
Da merke ich sofort.
dann lässt du es sein.
Dann bin ich weg.
Ja, also wo ist da das Problem?
Nee, also bei mir gibt es ja kein Problem. Also ich spreche nur diese ganze viele Diskussionen jetzt an. Wie gesagt,
okay.
in Law jetzt, ich frage mich, wie die das jetzt in Spanien schaffen werden. Da müssen alle jetzt wirklich mit Consent-Form Checkboxen wirklich durch die Gegend fahren und vielleicht wahrscheinlich nur die Männer, ja, weil wir sind jetzt die Täter immer, ne, mit Checkbox, jetzt darf ich dich hier anfassen, darf ich das machen, darf ich das und dann mit Checkboxen und dann erstmal so irgendwo hinschicken, dass es sicher ist, ne, falls und so. Was soll das alles jetzt, ja?
Ah ja, mein, was. Entschuldige, mir fällt jetzt überhaupt nichts mehr ein. Diese Hippies, die haben das alles ganz anders gemacht. Die haben es einfach gemacht, was wir wollten. Und anyway, ja, also wie gesagt, wenn der Mann nicht will, wenn der Mann nicht will oder wenn die Frau nicht will, dann war es das eben.
Ja.
Keine Verführung, kein Theater und keine warum nicht, weshalb nicht, warum nicht. Das ist ja auch keine Liebe, die dich dazu veranlasst oder denjenigen dazu veranlasst, den Consent irgendwie herbeizuwünschen, herbeizumanipulieren. Das ist keine Liebe, das ist einfach irgendwie eine Dummheit. Period.
So ein bisschen
Genau,
schon,
du
ein
fühlst,
bisschen
als wenn ich
schon.
10 Jahre nicht das Gefühl habe, dass ein Mann mich da berührt, wo es wichtig ist. Und das sind einige Zentren in meinem Körper, wobei das Herz die Mitte ist, aber da unten gibt es auch noch ein Zentrum und da oben gibt es auch noch eins. Und wenn das nicht passiert, dann passiert eben gar nichts. So einfach ist das. Weil wenn man etwas tut, was man nicht tun möchte, wenn der Konsens da ist, wenn der Konsens gegeben wird, ohne dass man das diskutieren muss, Konsens zwischen zwei Menschen, die was miteinander vorhaben, der wird ohne Worte gegeben.
Ja, da habe ich auch mal erlebt.
Verstehst du? Das ist die
Ja,
einzige
das verstehe ich
Möglichkeit.
schon, wie.
Das geht doch. Jetzt wird es sehr hippie-mäßig intim. Ich erinnere mich an eine Situation vor vielen, vielen Jahren, als man so gerne bewusstseinsverändernde Substanzen genommen hat. Recreational Drugs, sowas kannten wir nicht. Es war tatsächlich auch eine völlig unschuldige, da wir ja keine Ahnung hatten, Suche und nicht Suche, sondern Erleben von Wundern, von Aufwachen, nicht vernebeln. Genau das Gegenteil.
Ja.
Und da habe ich mal so ein Gespräch belauscht, was in diese Konsensrichtung gehen würde. Das Wort Konsens, das haben wir nicht benutzt, aber gut. Da war ein Paar, die waren zusammen und die redeten über irgendwas, machten keinen besonders intimen Eindruck. Das gab es damals auch, dass die Leute viel, viel zärtlicher miteinander umgegangen sind. Das war eine andere Zeit einfach. Das war jedenfalls in den Kreisen, in denen ich mich dann bewegt habe. Die sogenannten Hippies. Und da wurde das also auch sehr schön offen gelebt, das war auch der Versuch, diese ganzen Strukturen, die puritanischen, kirchlichen, patriarchalischen Strukturen zurückzulassen. Und das haben wir auch zum Teil sehr erfolgreich gemacht, obwohl schließlich the Mainstream das alles entweder geschluckt hat, Teile davon, die nicht zu gefährlich aussahen, und das andere einfach dann so irgendwann mal, ach ja, diese Hippies, die haben, also was daraus alles an positiven Dingen hervorgegangen ist, von Amnesty International bis God knows what, so viele gute Sachen, die da ihren Anfang haben. Wie dem auch sagt, dieses Paar, ich erinnere mich nur an einen Satz, und den hat sie zu ihm gesagt. Ach ja, und by the way, ich habe noch einen Kunilingus-Gut bei dir. Exactly. Und das war irgendwann in den späten 70ern. Und ich habe gedacht, aha, this is how it works now. Or with these people. Das ist wie ein Deal. Und insofern erinnert mich Konsens an einen Deal. Man macht einen Deal. Ja, wahrscheinlich hat sie ihm das etwas gegeben und dann hat er noch gut. Und das hat doch, also um Gottes Willen, ich kann mir gar nicht vorstellen, wie man sowas sagen kann oder wie man überhaupt eine Beziehung haben kann, wo das so funktioniert. Also ich denke, dass Konsens, wo das ja auch reinfallen würde, nicht, oder vielleicht fährt es auch nicht, ist auch egal, aber Konsens ist etwas, was so nicht herbeigeführt wird. Meiner Meinung nach. Da fehlt jede Magie, da fehlt jede Romantik, da fehlt dieses Unerklärliche, was Menschen zueinander zieht. Das ist entweder nicht da oder es wird nicht wahrgenommen, weil man vielleicht denkt, das ist, I don't know, also es wird nicht wahrgenommen. Jedenfalls war das ein sehr bezeichnender Satz.
Also sind wir doch ein bisschen privilegiert, wie wir jetzt reden, weil wir befinden uns, also wir haben das Glück, hier in ein, sag mal so, moderner, demokratische Gesellschaft zu leben zu dürfen. Vielleicht, ja, ich weiß nicht, also ein bisschen Empathie dann andere Leute gegenüber, die vielleicht nicht diese Freiheit genießen. Es gibt da doch schon Leute, die, also auch Männer manchmal, ne, die diese Freiheit nicht haben, die haben nicht das Luxus irgendwie, darüber nachzudenken, ja, will ich das oder will ich das nicht? Ja, die müssen einfach mal leisten, ne, manchmal.
Nein, natürlich Empathie. Also ich würde das auch nicht, ich verurteile das auch nicht. Man kann auch nur tun, was man kann. Wenn man jemandem begegnet, vielleicht, der darunter leidet, dass oder der keinen Weg zu seinem Gefühl findet oder sie, vielleicht kann man denjenigen inspirieren, vorsichtig irgendwie, aber das kann man auch nicht mit Werf und Gewalt oder wie auch immer machen. Aber letzten Endes bin ich nicht dafür verantwortlich, dass der andere das sieht. Ich kann einfach nur leben, was ich mache und das so ehrlich wie möglich in der jeweiligen Situation verbalisieren, formulieren, sagen. Und wenn das dann nicht ist, dann muss man seine Wege gehen.
Danke, Angelika. Das war so schön. Du bringst wirklich eine Weisheit hier, die ich wirklich schätze. Ne? Habe ich mehrmals schon gesagt. Und da wir schon so lange geredet haben, ich möchte einfach mal fragen. Du warst noch nie in Grönland, nicht wahr?
Nee, da war ich noch nicht. Ich bin sicher, es muss ein Ereignis sein. Ich habe auch meine, wie soll man das sagen, meine Schwächen. Also ich gehe ungern dahin, wo es kalt ist und Eis ist. Das schaue ich mir dann, also dann blessed be the Internet, weil es gibt fantastische Berichte. Also ich sage jetzt mal hier eine Website, eine YouTube-Seite, die wenige zu kennen scheinen, die eine der schönsten das heißt Amazing Places on the Planet. Das ist ein Mann aus der Tschechei, der diese Videos macht und es gibt kaum etwas Vergleichbares damit. Das sind wirkliche Meditationen, aber du musst nicht irgendein Meditationstyp sein. Du schaust dir das einfach an. Sag mal, du möchtest mal sehen, wie ist es in Grönland oder wie ist es in Syrien oder was auch immer. Und dieser Mensch versteht es, das Land oder die Gegenden so zu filmen, mit der passenden Musik, die in keiner Weise stört und die nichts mit irgendwelchen modernen Musikrichtungen zu tun hat, aber auch nichts, ich weiß nicht, wo er die hernimmt, wo die herkommt. Und es wird nie ein Wort gesprochen. Und es gibt auch keine fortlaufenden Interpretationen. Du schaust dir das einfach an und du amazing planets, also places, so heißt es ja auch, und du siehst, wie amazing die Welt ist und wie sie Resonanz in deiner Seele findet, in deinem Herzen findet. Das ist einfach unglaublich. Also wenn ich mal mich nicht wohlfühle oder weil ich nicht reisen kann in den letzten 2,5 Jahren, was ich als eine persönliche Kränkung empfand. Wie kann man jemandem, der einen relativ free spirit hat, daran hindern, sich frei zu bewegen? Ist eine Frechheit. Aber gut, ich habe meine eigene Meinung zu dem, was hier vorgefallen ist in den letzten 2 Jahren.
Ja, du hast auch einen deutschen Pass, liebe Frau.
Selbst wenn du keinen deutschen Pass hast, gibt es bestimmt Gegenden, die du besuchen kannst, wenn du das möchtest. Aber der deutsche Pass ist hilfreich, das ist richtig.
Das stimmt.
Und dann schaue ich mir das an und dann sehe ich, wie wunderschön die Welt ist. Und dennoch hat es mich noch nicht nach Grönland verschlagen, um das mal aufzugreifen.
Ich finde es einfach toll. Und ich meine, was ich sagen muss, ist das okay gut. Also da hast du ja Resonanz nur auf YouTube gefunden, aber ansonsten warst du überall anders, nicht wahr?
Ländern, Und ich mache das so, ich gehe dann und lebe dann eine Weile.
Ja, Indien, Afrika, Südamerika,
Ja, ich
Asien.
lebe praktisch auf der ganzen Welt und wie ich immer sage, ich zahle überall Miete, aber ständig an einem anderen Ort. Weil ich suche mir dann, also ich bin kein Tourist, absolut nicht. Ich gehe nicht irgendwo hin und schaue mir irgendwo, im Gegenteil. Ich versuche möglichst nicht diese Orte aufzusuchen, sondern da zu sein, wo die Leute leben, die in den Touristenorten arbeiten. Also ist jetzt nicht so, dass ich hier Leute aussuche, die arm sind oder gesellschaftlich benachteiligt. Nein, ich meine nur, ich möchte das Land in all seiner Glorie und auch Nicht-Glorie sehen, in das ich mich begebe, und das siehst du nicht an Touristenorten. Das ist eine Nummer für sich. Und I never tire of that. I love doing that. Dann suche ich mir, es gibt genug Websites, wo man das machen kann, dann suche ich mir eine Wohnung. Sie muss schön sein. Schönheit, beauty is of the essence for me. It's a relative thing. We all have a different idea about that, but I know what beauty means to me. And I need to be able to pay for it. Und was ich festgestellt habe, und das mal für Leute, die auch mal dran denken, solche etwas anders zu reisen als bisher oder vielleicht mal ein Jahr Pause zu machen oder überhaupt sich ihre Lebensweise nochmal überlegen. Es gibt so viel schöne Wohnungen und Wohnmöglichkeiten auf der Welt, die irgendwelche Menschen wirklich mit Liebe gemacht haben und die nicht benutzt werden. Also man muss da und auch für den Preis, den man bezahlen kann. Mit anderen Worten, man muss also nicht in irgendwelchen Hotels absteigen. Es gibt alles. Die Menschen müssen ein bisschen mehr sich was trauen. Wenn ich zum Beispiel eine schöne Wohnung finde auf einer Website, die ich jetzt mal nicht nennen möchte, aber ich nehme an, jeder kennt diese Website, dann ist oft, gerade weil sie schön ist und weil sie alle die Dinge bietet, die ich brauche, um auch meine Arbeit als Autorin und Übersetzerin, so ich dann Aufträge habe, machen zu können, die sind oft teuer, wesentlich teurer, als was ich bezahlen kann. Aber das hindert mich nicht daran, als offener Mensch auf einen anderen offenen, hoffentlich Menschen zuzugehen und zu sagen, it's beautiful, I like it. Can we talk about the money? This is what I can pay. Und meine Erfahrung ist, dass in 9 von 10 Fällen, man redet ein bisschen so über das Telefon, man sieht sich ja nicht gleich, wenn das in einem anderen Kontinent ist. In 9 von 10 Fällen, we find einen Konsens. And it's a win-win situation. Und so kann man aber ich meine, dazu brauchst du natürlich ein bisschen Zeit. Wenn du 4 Wochen nur Zeit hast, selbst dann in den 4 Wochen, wenn du in einem oder 2 Orten sein willst, kannst du das so machen. Warum erwähne ich das überhaupt? Ich erzähle jetzt was über mein Leben, das für viele Leute in der Form gar nicht durchführbar ist. Aber es ist machbar, wenn man, jetzt kommen wir wieder auf die Anfang, wenn man voller Vertrauen und Freude an dem, was man macht, loszieht, egal was es ist, was man machen möchte, Theater spielen, Automechaniker sein oder als Nomade durch die Welt zu reisen, wenn du das Gefühl hast, ja, ich mache das mit Freude und das bringt ja auch anderen Freude und du bist bereit, to dance, so that keiner bevorteilt wird und keiner benachteiligt wird, mit dem du zu tun hast, dann ist die Welt ein Ort, der sehr, sehr schön sein kann. Also ich begebe mich nicht, um das gleich vorweg oder hinterher zu sagen, ich begebe mich bewusst nicht an Orten, an denen katastrophale Zustände herrschen oder Kriege. Ich nehme mir die Freiheit, das nicht zu tun. Das möchte ich nicht, das wäre mir wohl zu viel. Sollte das eines Tages passieren, weil es eben passiert, dann bin ich natürlich da. Aber es ist nicht etwas, was ich suche. Aber ich finde, die Leute, die das suchen und dann darüber berichten oder versuchen, das vor Ort zu ändern, was immer es ist, das bewundere ich natürlich auch, aber es ist nicht mein Ding. Also ich bin eher da, ich finde, es ist nötig, das kann ich noch dazu sagen, ich finde, es ist nötig, dass manche von uns in a humble way, not in an arrogant way, give notice to the other humans on the planet that beauty exists. That, I think, is important. And this guy who does the amazing places on the planet, he's one of those souls. Nothing in return, nothing to sell, just give. No concept, no philosophy, no guru, no nothing. Just look at the beauty of the world from his inner beauty. And that is something I try to do.
Fantastic. That is art somehow. That is art as well. It's just art. It's just beautiful that way. It's authentic. It's clean. It's non-commercial. It doesn't have this commercial drive to it. And there are parallels to what you just said and some of the things I say. I'm not going to take this opportunity to pat myself on the shoulder, but I definitely recognize that approach sometimes. Sometimes it's not about the money. It's not about trying to influence anyone with anyone's story. It's not about having an agenda. Yes, I definitely can relate to that. But you know what? What I wanted to say was that there's a certain prophet. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not quite sure how it works with that. But he said, when he meets someone, he doesn't ask them what they studied, but where they've been. Yes, and maybe you know which prophet it was, but also I'm not gonna say even who I think it was, but this to me is one of the reasons why I value your having been to so many places and why I value what it is you have to say, right? Regarding consent. Luckily, you found even an example about taking the human approach, talking to someone face to face, reaching a mutual agreement, a win-win situation, as you said. And this is one of the things that you can do when you just, you talk to people, you feel it, with your intuition, with your Menschenverständnis und so weiter and so forth. And also your celebration of people, your Gegenüber, ja. Du feierst auch die Leute, habe ich so ein Gefühl, ne? Und die wissen das auszuschätzen und die wollen auch mehr davon, ja.
Mehr, ja.
Und das ist ja auch gut so.
I tell you, I mean, oftentimes, and I'm happy to hear this. This is, what makes me feel happy to be around, is that people tell me, sei es ein Verkäufer in einem Laden oder sei es ein Busfahrer irgendwo auf der Welt oder einfach so Menschen, ganz normale Menschen. Davon, wie wunderbar Al Pacino mit mir geflirtet hat, kann ich ein andermal reden. Also es geht auch.
Und wie ist
nur mal
das
sagen,
gelaufen?
genau.
Du bist ja auch ein
Solche
Schauspieler.
Leute.
Auch. Das habe ich ja noch nicht mal erwähnt hier. 8 Filme. Oh my God. I'm in the presence of stars.
No.
Yes,
okay.
of course I am.
Oh, yeah, I could write a little book about that. And I never really had an affair with no, never mind. It was great. It was just, I don't know. I just do things my way. And
You did say Al Pacino, yes?
Huh? Yeah, but I mean, please. It's a no.
And you do not touch the mic.
Oh. Be quiet. No, what I was going to say is that just talking to ordinary people, every day, wherever I am on the planet, maybe once a week I'm not, but every day, basically, I'm out at least 4 hours. Never mind where I am. If it's Uruguay, if it's Johannesburg, where I was strongly warned against doing that, but I did it anyway, even in the evening. And always communicate if I feel like it. Because not others communicate with me, because my experience is people do not communicate out of shyness and God knows what with other people, rarely. Once they're introduced, yes, I am relentless if I feel like it. I speak to anybody, child, man, woman, old, young. And as a rule, I will not say always, sometimes people probably think, who's that? Huh? Not often, though. But as a rule, I have to say, people say to me something like, I needed to hear that. I've been thinking about these kind of things. So, what is freedom? What is fearlessness? And they say, you made my day. And that to me I am so grateful for that. Just grateful. I mean, I follow no religion, nothing. And I've met quite a few, like shamans and everything. I'm glad that I've met them because something happened, which was great. And then I go my way. I don't want to be a shaman. I don't want to be this or that. I'm no disciple material. But I do what I I think is good. Or that's something. I do what I like to do, period. So the basic, what I love to do, and the basic lesson or the basic info from me would be, if humanly possible, do what makes your heart sing, really. And if it's a bit difficult, yeah, maybe sometimes it is. It was for me 2.5 years. I still was in 2 different countries, back and forth. I managed that. So bring beauty to the world, really. I mean, that is consciously my agenda, even though it's not an agenda, it's a necessity. I create beauty around me if I can. Well, I always can. You don't need much for that. I have like 23 kilo of luggage and I still kind of create a bit of beauty. And because it is so good for the soul. And then bring that out back into the world, and it's glorious, and it takes away all fear. Well, I don't have that much fear, but I think if people would have more an eye for beauty, inside out, the real beauty, the one that satisfies the heart, and communicate that would be a good thing, I think.
Yeah. I think our little discussion today has been glorious. And I want to
Okay, I'm going.
take
Okay,
this.
I'm
I want
leaving.
to take no.
I'm
The good things in life. You've touched on so many things. I think it's enough. I look forward to more conversations with you, Angelika,
Meet me in
and
Bangkok. I'm going for a month to Bangkok.
in Bangkok. Oh my goodness, isn't
I
that
don't
some
know.
kind of
I
very,
think so.
very, very naughty city? I've heard these songs. The devil lives in Bangkok or something like that. Or no, was it Berlin? I'm not quite sure.
Well, just the word, if you let it roll off your tongue. Bangkok.
Bangkok.
But this is not why I'm going there.
Well,
That's not what I just find it fascinating to go to a big city like that. I haven't done that in a while.
I never thought of that city that way before, but now, I'm forever damaged.
Forever. No, please, because for me that's of no relevance because I follow my own rule, my own instinct. But then I'm pretty much just a nomad. I have to be some other places most of the time. And anyway, so yeah, if I ever am back here, but nowadays we can communicate from any part of the world. Okay,
Of course,
I don't have to sit in your studio.
No, you don't. Well,
Thanks
you know
for
what?
reminding me.
If there is anything, I've been here sitting, answering or asking all these questions. Is there anything in particular that you might want to ask me? Is there anything that comes to mind? If there's nothing, then, or maybe a question that you would love to answer that I haven't asked.
No, but why did you come to Germany?
All right. I'm going to answer this really quickly. Well, first of all, the rest of the world sees Germany, understands Germany to be some kind of seat of quality, of quality and standards and some values that are well respected in the world, like that's a Pünktlichkeit, Zuverlässigkeit and these things. Many times I've said it before that I wanted to kind of come into contact with this work ethic and this that's a Sinn for Qualität, and that was one reason I wanted to experience that, that new culture. I wanted to come to Europe. I wanted to learn a new language, and I thought since English is Germanic, it would be easier to learn than Spanish or French or Russian. To be quite honest, the Americas and the UK, the Commonwealth kind of bored me. Everybody goes there. And I wanted to try out continental Europe, also because of the fact that, for example, in Europe we are bordered by different countries. In the States they're bordered by two. I think it's just Mexico and Canada too, and that has an effect on the mentality, I think, of the society. The British, I'm also a so-called Inselaffe, so I can also call them Inselaffe. And that is a thing, and the whole colonialist past does leave a bad taste in my mouth a little bit, so I wanted to find a different perspective. That was one of the reasons for coming to Germany. Of course, now I'm telling this story in retrospect, and of course we embellish it a little bit, we shape how we tell the story after having told it so many times, but it is still true. It's one of the reasons why I came here. I came here to study first, and I finished it, had some difficulty in Frankfurt Oder, so I had to leave that university, actually finished up in Berlin, and ever since then I learned to become an English teacher. And also did a course, master level, called Führung in Bezug auf Nachhaltigkeit, that I did not finish. I do have master's credits, but I didn't finish it. And before I came here, I did building engineering, focusing on the cost, called quantity surveying. So all of these things come together that I've studied, the experiences I've had, the outlook, the people I come in contact with. All of these things help to enrich, as well as, this whole media work, taking ownership of my voice and so on. So, I'm glad I came here. The original reason was really to just come into a new culture, learn a new language, and be in Europe. And I think what I'm doing with it now is good because, yeah,
That's good.
I think so.
Yeah.
That was long.
Right.
All right. So
Thank you for answering my question.
you're most welcome. All right. Angelika,
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you for having been here and shared so generously
Thank you
with
so much.
me and all the listeners today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to me. So, yeah, anytime again.